In 1933, the government told Americans to trust the banks, buy from chain stores, and stop growing their own food. Backyard gardens were fined in some cities. Bartering was reported to the IRS. Homemade soap was called unsanitary. But here's the twist. The families who ignored Washington and kept their grandparents' tricks were the ones who survived. Number 14 on this list was banned outright in 3 states. Number 3 created a chemistry the chemical industry has spent 90 years trying to suppress. Hit subscribe before we start. These hacks save you real money. Let us count them down. Number 20, the fat tin on the back of the stove. Every Depression-era kitchen had a tin can where every drop of rendered cooking fat was saved. Bacon grease, beef tallow, chicken schmaltz, pork lard. Your grandmother strained it through cheesecloth and stored it on the back of the wood stove. She fried eggs in it. She seasoned cast iron with it. She made flaky pie crust with it. A pound of bacon cost 22 cents in 1934, and the saved fat was a second product for free. Today, a small jar of gourmet beef tallow costs $16 at the natural grocery store. The chemistry has not changed since. Number 19, the feed sack wardrobe. By 1935, a 100-pound sack of chicken feed cost about $1 at the rural store. But the real value was the cotton. Manufacturers caught on that. Farm wives were sewing the sacks into clothing, so companies began printing the bags with colorful floral patterns to compete for sales. Mothers turned those sacks into dresses for their daughters, aprons, curtains, and pillowcases. A single sack made a child's dress. 2 sacks made a woman's blouse. The cotton was free, soft after washing, and the patterns matched. Today we pay over $40 for a cotton dress at the big box store and call it sustainable. Number 18, wild greens that grew along every fence row. Before lawn chemicals taught America to poison them, Depression families ate lambs, quarter, purslane, plantain, sorrel, and pokeweed. Women and children walked the field edges with baskets every spring. The young leaves went into salads. The older leaves were boiled with a little salt pork and vinegar. The roots were dried, roasted, and ground into coffee substitute when real coffee cost 26 cents a pound, and the family had none to spare. Today we pay $9 for a small bag of organic baby greens at the supermarket. Your grandmother picked the same nutrition from the back fence for free. Number 17, beans and cornbread as the perfect cheap protein. When ground beef cost 12 cents a pound and your family had 6 mouths to feed, the Wednesday dinner was a pot of pinto beans simmered with a ham hock and a pan of buttery cornbread. The combination is not random. Beans alone are an incomplete protein. Corn alone is an incomplete protein. Together they form a complete amino acid profile that rivals beef ounce for ounce. Mexican families had known this for 3,000 years. Depression families relearned it by necessity. A pound of dried pinto beans cost 6 cents in 1935 and fed 8 people for 2 days. Number 16, the backyard flock. By 1934, almost every American family with a patch of ground kept chickens. Eggs were not bought from a store. Eggs were collected each morning from 6 to 12 hens that also ate kitchen scraps, controlled garden insects, and produced manure for the vegetable bed. The system was closed and almost free. A laying hen cost about $1 in 1935 and paid for herself within 3 months of breakfast eggs. Then came the zoning laws. By 1960, most cities had banned backyard livestock within the city limits, even though no one had complained. The eggs your grandmother collected by name contained more nutrients than anything sold in a carton. Number 15, vinegar from apple scraps. When your grandmother peeled apples for pie, she did not throw away the cores and peels. She packed them into a wide-mouthed jar, covered them with sugar water, tied a cloth over the top, and let it sit on the windowsill for 6 weeks. The wild yeast on the apple skins did the rest. Out came a quart of raw apple cider vinegar, with the mother still floating inside. The vinegar cleaned counters, rinsed hair, dressed greens, and preserved pickles. After the war, Hanes and other manufacturers convinced housewives that homemade vinegar was unsafe. The chemistry was identical. The price was not. Today, a small bottle of raw apple cider vinegar costs $12. Number 14, the newspaper that did everything. By the time the morning paper had been read, It had only just begun its useful life. Your grandmother scrubbed window glass with crumpled newspaper and white vinegar until the panes squeaked. She wrapped fish and butter in it for the icebox. She lined drawers with it. She stuffed it into wet boots overnight to draw out moisture. She papered the cracks between barn boards as winter insulation. She started fires with it. She wove it into braided rugs. A daily paper cost 2 cents in 1934 and served 15 purposes before the week was out. Today, a single roll of paper towels costs $4. A bottle of glass cleaner, $6, and a newspaper subscription, nothing, because they died waiting for readers. Number 12, the rainwater barrel under the eaves. Before the municipal water bill, your grandfather built a network of wooden gutters and tin downspouts that caught every drop that fell on the roof. An inch of rain on a 1,000-square-foot roof delivers 600 gallons. He knew that the way he knew the angle of the September sun. The first flush diverter, a simple bent pipe that let the dirty initial runoff bypass the tank, was made from scrap tin and cost nothing. He built 4 barrels behind the smokehouse and a 5th one by the barn door. By August, the tank held enough water for the garden, the chickens, and the kitchen pump. Then came the laws. Colorado, Utah, and several western states quietly criminalized rainwater collection for decades, citing water rights statutes drafted by utility lobbyists. University researchers now confirm that decentralized rainwater collection reduces flooding and groundwater depletion. The government got it backwards. A modern rain barrel costs $90 at the hardware store. His was free. Number 11, the roadside stand and porch sales. By 1936, almost every farm wife with surplus eggs, garden tomatoes, or extra honey set out a small wooden stand at the end of the long gravel driveway. 3 eggs for a nickel, a quart of green beans for a dime, a jar of homemade strawberry jam for 15 cents. The honor system worked because everyone in the county knew everyone else, and stealing from a farm wife was a kind of moral suicide. The stand fed the family budget through the spring and summer. By the early 1970s, dozens of municipalities had passed ordinances requiring permits, business licenses, and food handling certifications for the sale of any home-produced food across a property line. The fees often cost more than the produce was worth. The grocery store chains that lobbied for those laws lost no sleep over the small-scale competition that quietly died as a result. Your grandmother's roadside stand became a county code violation that could cost $80 in fines. Number 10, the fermentation crock that ran year-round. Before refrigeration, your grandmother kept a stoneware crock the size of a small barrel on the cellar floor. Cabbage went in for sauerkraut, cucumbers for sour pickles, beans, beets, turnips, and ramps all spent 6 weeks under brine and a wooden weight, while the lactobacillus bacteria did the preservation work for free. Your grandmother filled 3 big crocks every fall. A 50-pound head of cabbage cost 12 cents in 1935 and yielded 20 pounds of sauerkraut that fed the family through January. The vegetables came out crunchier, more nutritious, and more digestible than anything that had been heated, frozen, or canned. After the war, the FDA decided lacto-fermented vegetables should be regulated for botulism risk, despite the fact that no documented case of botulism from properly fermented vegetables has ever been recorded in American history. The dairy and pickle industries that lobbied for those rules were not interested in your kitchen science. Today, a small jar of artisan sauerkraut at the natural grocery store costs $9. Number 9, the November hog. In 1934, if your family raised a single pig in the back lot, you slaughtered him yourself in November when the weather turned cold enough to chill the meat. A 250-pound hog yielded hams for the smokehouse, bacon for the icebox, sausage in casings, lard in crocks, cracklings for cornbread, head cheese, and even blood pudding. The whole neighborhood came. Everyone worked from dawn until dark. Nobody wasted a single thing. By Christmas, the smokehouse hung heavy with cured hams, and the cellar shelves held lard. Then came the municipal ordinances. By the late 1960s, dozens of American cities had banned backyard slaughter outright, citing sanitation. But the same inspectors rarely visited the industrial slaughterhouses where conditions were genuinely horrifying. The new laws targeted small producers because small producers were direct competition to the industrial meat packers, A pound of pasture-raised pork at the farmer's market costs $12 today. Your grandfather paid the cost of one bag of feed and a Sunday afternoon. The technique nearly died with his generation. Number 7, the hand-dug well in the backyard. Before the licensed driller, before the electric pump, before the monthly water bill, your grandfather and 3 neighbors spent a long, hot Saturday digging an 8-foot shaft into the shallow aquifer behind the smokehouse. He lined the walls with fieldstone and brick. He installed a cast-iron pitcher pump at the top. The well delivered clean, cold water for the entire family with nothing but the pull of his arm. After 1950, state laws required licensed contractors and permits for any new well. A drilled well today costs $8,000. Your grandfather's well cost a weekend and a case of cold beer. Number 6, the outhouse and the human compost cycle. Before indoor plumbing reached most rural counties, every farm had a privy set away from the well and downwind of the kitchen. A scoop of wood ash or barn lime after each use kept odor and pathogens in check. The collected material went onto the compost heap each spring, broke down over a year of high-temperature decomposition, and returned to the cornfield as black soil. The cycle was closed and free of municipal sewer fees. Most county health codes now prohibit composting toilets without a permit. A modern composting toilet costs $1,600 at the home improvement store and runs on the same principle. Number 5, foraging on the back 40 and the public forest. In 1936, families across Appalachia, the Ozarks, and the Pacific Northwest gathered ramps in April, morel mushrooms in May, blackberries in July, hickory nuts in October, and pawpaws in November from public timberland that belonged to everyone and no one. The knowledge of which mushroom was safe and which would kill was not in a book. It passed from grandmother to granddaughter at the back of the woods. By 1970, federal collection limits, permit requirements, and designated zones had reduced subsistence foraging to a hobby. Today, a pound of fresh morels at the gourmet market costs $60. Your grandmother filled a basket for free and walked home humming. Number 4, the apple cider that turned itself into something stronger. Every fall, your grandfather pressed his windfall apples into sweet cider in a wooden press behind the woodshed. He drank some fresh. He left the rest in oak barrels in the cool of the cellar. By Thanksgiving, the wild yeast had turned the sweetness into hard cider that kept all winter at 5% alcohol. Mead from honey, beer from barley, wine from wild elderberries. The fermentation knowledge that powered every farmhouse cellar in 1934 cost almost nothing because the ingredients were already in the kitchen. Home distilling above the one specific point became a federal felony after Prohibition ended, and remains one today. The fermentation underneath was always legal, and it always worked. Number 3, lye soap from cooking grease and hardwood ash. This is the one that makes the chemical companies nervous. Every Depression household saved cooking fat in a tin and collected hardwood ash from the fireplace. When enough had accumulated, your grandmother leached water through the wood ash to make lye, a powerful alkali. She heated the saved grease, stirred in lye water for an hour, poured the mixture into wooden molds, and cured the bars for 6 weeks. The chemistry between fat and lye, saponification, creates soap and glycerin naturally. You cannot improve on it. Today, an artisan bar at the farmer's market sells for $12. Your grandmother made hers for free, and the glycerin made skin softer than any modern drugstore product. Number 2, seed saving from the garden harvest. Every fall, your grandfather walked the garden with a paper bag and collected seeds from his best plants. Tomatoes, beans, squash, corn. He spread them on newspaper to dry for 2 weeks, then stored them in labeled envelopes in the cool of the cellar. The next spring, those seeds grew true to the parent plant because they were open-pollinated varieties bred over generations. By 1990, seed companies had begun replacing open-pollinated varieties with F1 hybrids that produced sterile seeds. Today, 4 corporations control over 60% of the commercial seed supply, and planting saved patented seeds is a federal violation. Your grandfather never needed a license to save what he grew himself. Number 1, the kitchen table where the knowledge lived. The greatest hack of the Depression was not a recipe, a barrel, or a backyard skill. It was the kitchen table where 4 generations sat together, and one generation taught the next how to do everything you have just heard. The fat tin, the feed sack, the The fermentation crock, the cider barrel, none of it was written down. All of it was passed mouth to ear, mother to daughter, grandfather to grandson, while the bread rose and the kettle whistled. That table is what Washington and the corporations could never replace. They could ban a practice, they could tax a trade, they could not touch what passed across a kitchen table.